Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in the late 19th century America where you'll be trying to have the most profitable railroad while also owning the most valuable stocks. Now you'll be connecting cities via the 12 great railroads that stretched across America in that time, and you'll be using those railroads to make deliveries to drive up the price of your stocks. Railroad Rivals is a fast-paced tycoon game for 1 to 5 players, plays in 30 to 60 minutes, ages 8 and up, and it's published by Forbidden Games. Today, we'll be doing a rule school where I'll teach you how to set up and play the game so that you don't have to read the rulebook yourself. Now, I've placed timestamps below me in the description of this video, just in case you want to jump to a specific section of the rules. Without further ado, let's get started. Railroad Rivals is a railroad and stock game for 2 to 5 players, where you're going to be investing by drafting different tiles of different stock types. You'll be drafting different city tiles and playing them in certain spots to link different railroads together, and those tiles will be getting different types of goods, which will then be delivered in order to get points and move stocks up for that type of railroad. And as those stocks go up, they'll become more valuable because at the end of the game, each of these stocks is worth a certain amount at the bottom. You'll be bidding for turn order to have the first right to draft tiles. And you'll be drafting city tiles and stocks. And you'll be trying to deliver goods that have not been delivered yet that round because they're worth more points. And you want to try to avoid using links from other players because it gives them points as well. It's a game with simple mechanisms but deep strategy, and even has a solo variant. I'm going to teach you how to set up and play for 2 to 5 players. The solo variant is not in the scope of this video, and you'll need to check the rules to see how to play the solo variant. Now, depending on the amount of players, as shown on the right here, you'll use a specific type of cube set. Now, you'll always use the 16 brown cubes, but you'll see there's cubes of the 3 other colors, 10 of them each. For a 5-player game, you will use all of the cubes of all the types. In a 4-player game, you will remove the 10 gray cubes out of the game and put them back in the box, but you'll use the brown, the yellow, and the black. For a 3-player game, you'll remove the black cubes in addition to the gray ones out of the game, and you'll be left with just the yellow and the brown ones. Now, if you're playing with 2 players, you'll still use brown and yellow, but there'll be some special rules that will come up throughout this video. In this case, we're going to be playing a 4-player game, so we'll use all of the cubes except the gray ones. Now, the cubes being used will be put into this Railroad Rivals draw bag. Next, each player is going to select a color. They'll take all of the locomotives from that color. They'll also take the single water tower and hotel of that color. They'll also take the character card that has that color around it. So in this case, I'm gray. I'll be taking all of these, and I'll be putting this character card all in front of us. Now, any colors that aren't used are going to be placed back in the box, both the character and any of the wooden pieces. Now, the water tower and the hotels are special for this first edition. If you have a future edition of this game later on, it may or may not have these in it. Next, you're going to go through all of the city tiles in the game, and you're going to locate these 3 specific ones: Chicago, St. Louis, and Cincinnati. Once you have these all together, you'll flip them over like this, you'll shuffle them up, and you'll draw one of these just to flip over to be the starting tile. In this case, it's Cincinnati. The tiles that you didn't select can go back with the other city tiles face down. And then, from the bag, you're going to draw a certain amount of cubes depending on the number you see on the tile that was flipped over. In this case, 2. So we'll draw 2 from the bag, and we'll put them right on Cincinnati. Next, you're going to take all those city tiles, put them face down, shuffle them all up, and put them in like stacks, so that in these stacks, the only things that are in them are city tiles. You'll do the same thing for the stocks. You'll shuffle them up face down, put them into stacks where only the stock tiles are in those stacks. Then you'll give each player 2 city tiles that they'll place face down in front of themselves. Now, city tiles are always face down. Now, the player who this is can always look at these, but they don't want to show them to their opponents. Then take the character cards of those playing, shuffle them up, and put them in order from left to right, keeping in mind that these tiles do have 2 sides with different artwork. You can choose which side you want, but this is going to be turn order for the first round, going left to right. Next, you'll find the scoring track. Now, on this track, you're going to place locomotives keeping score for each of the players. So you'll take a locomotive of each color to place there. Whoever's first in turn order for the beginning of the game will place theirs on 6. It's always 6 regardless of the amount of players. Each player in turn order after that will move up 2. So in this case we have 4 players. It's 6, 8, 10, and 12 for first, second, third, and fourth turn order. Now if you're playing with 2 players, there's some special rules in setup. For 2 players, you're going to take 6 random city tiles and remove them completely from the game. You'll also go through the stock tiles. Now there's 12 different stocks, but there's multiples of each of them in the stock piles. You're going to find one of each of the 12 unique stocks and you're going to remove those from the game. The object of the game is to have the most points at the end of the game, and you'll be getting points by delivering goods using the railroad systems, which will also give you stock and increasing values of different stock. And you're going to be getting even more points at the end of the game by having stock that's worth a certain amount and having those in your portfolio. The game is played over multiple turns or rounds, and each of those turns consists of 4 different phases. We're going to go through those 4 phases now. The first one is the draw tiles and bid for turn order phase. So first what you do is you take the amount of tiles of city tiles and stock tiles from those piles that you created, and you're going to put them out 1 for each player. So in this case we have a 4-player game we're playing, so you'll put out 4 city tiles and 4 stock tiles. It's always 1 tile per player for each of the stacks. Now as these come out, they can come up face up. I just wanted you to see how they get lined up with city tiles and stock tiles. Now in turn order you're going to go ahead and start bidding. Now in the first round of the game, you do not do this bidding part because the turn order was already set during setup. However, in every subsequent round for the rest of the game, you'll be doing this, so let's teach you how this works. Starting from the last player, which remember, turn order goes left to right, they get to bid. What you're bidding with is points, and what you're bidding for is the ability to pick which tiles you want first before the other players. So starting with the last player, and then going this way and then coming around like this, so it'll go black, yellow, blue, gray, and continuing in that circle. So when it's your turn, you can either bid or you can pass. If you bid, again, you're bidding how many points you might be spending if you win the bid. So let's say black bids 2, and the next player can either pass or bid more, anything more than 2. This will continue going in this order until all players except 1 has passed. Once you pass, you're out of the auction, and the player who wins the bid will go down that many points. So let's say yellow won the bid, and let's say they bid 5. So they would go down 5 from 10 down to 5. Then the player that won would now be first player, but everyone else stays in the same positions relatively. Then we go to the second phase, which is drafting tiles. Going in that player order, from left to right now, each player is going to make 1 selection. They're going to draft either a city tile or a stock tile for their first round through. Everyone's going to end up with 2 tiles, but you'll have to end up with 1 city tile and 1 stock tile, which means on the first round through, if you pick a city tile, then next time it comes around, you'll have to pick a stock tile, and vice versa, because you can only have 1 of each in each round. So going in that turn order, each player will draft 1 of the tiles. And since there are city tiles and stock tiles for the number of players equally, once all the players have picked 2 tiles, 1 city and 1 stock, there'll be no tiles left face up in the middle here. Now anytime you draft tiles on this game, city tiles always go face down in front of you, think of those of your hand, and stock tiles are always face up for everybody. Now keep in mind the stocks that you get, they're going to be worth a certain amount as things happen with that stock throughout the game, so you're trying to invest in stocks that you think will do well throughout the game. The third phase is placing a city tile, and you do this in turn order, remembering turn order is always left to right with the character cards. When placing a city tile, you'll be placing it on the board and adjacent to other tiles that are already on the board. You can never place tiles on top of other tiles, but when you link them together, they have to match so that the railroad type matches the adjacent one you're putting it next to. So this says B&O, and that says B&O, and that's fine. You can turn tiles any way, and this would still be a legal placement, even though the tile's actually upside down where it says St. Louis, because B&O matches B&O. Now when the player does that, they'll take a locomotive of their own color, and they'll place it linking those 2 tiles with that. So they could have placed it here, or they could have placed that there, linking those tiles with the B&O railroad. This is called a link, and this player has linked those together. That player will then draw from the bag a certain amount of cubes on the new tile. This is 2, so from the bag, they'll draw 2 goods randomly, and they'll place them right on that tile. Each player will do this in successive turn order. Also, when placing tile, only one side has to match. In this case, This tile matches with the New York City, NYC here, but does not match there, and that's okay because at least one thing matches. So that would have been a legal placement, and that would have been a link. If when placing a tile, you actually match up more than one of the different railroads, that player actually gets to make two different links because they've actually linked them both together, but they still only put cubes on there on the amount that's on the actual city tile. And keep in mind, each player is only playing one city tile each turn, and you have to play a tile legally if you can. If you cannot match up railroads, if you can, you must match up empty spots on the different city tiles like this. We have Jacksonville and Fort Worth, and we couldn't match up anything, so we could put it just like this. Now, when you do this and you match up an empty spot, you do not put your railroad locomotive as a link, but it does get added one of the good cubes from the bag. And if you can't make a legal match or match blank edges, then you must pass and you don't place a city tile this turn. So I now have shrunk it down to what it might look like at the end of the first round, at the end of the place a tile phase. So now we're going on to the fourth phase, deliver a good. And again, left to right in turn order, each player is going to deliver a good. So to do this, you're going to take a cube and deliver it to an adjacent spot. Now, the yellow player is going first, and it's good to try to deliver using your own links if possible, because you'll get more points and you don't give any points to anybody else, but some strategies might change as the game goes on depending on which stocks you want to join. So how it works is, let's deliver this yellow cube from here to an adjacent spot. This is linked here by this yellow player. So they'll take this, they'll deliver it here, and they'll just place this off to the side right now. This just shows that one yellow cube has been delivered, and the number of cubes delivered of each color is very important. Because if this cube color has not yet been delivered this turn, the player that did this and delivered it gets 3 points. And again, points are always counted on this score track just like that. Now, if it was the second cube of that color, you'd get 2 points, and if it was more than twice, 3 or more, you'd get 1 point. So it's 3 points for the first cube of a color, 2 points if it's the second time that color was delivered, and 1 point if more than twice that cube was delivered. Now, in addition to getting points for the cube, you're also going to move the stock up for that valued railroad. So here, it got delivered this way here, so PRR is going to go up on the stock track. Now, all of the stocks for each of the railroads start off the board, and each time it's moved, it goes 1 this way. So here, this one, the PRR, went from nothing to now a value of 1. What this means is, currently, everyone that has a stock of this is worth 1, but as the game goes on, different stocks are going to go up higher than others, and you're going to try to be investing in those stocks because they're going to be worth a lot of points at the end of the game. Now, if when delivering you use a link that's not your own, that player that owns that link also gets 2 points. So let's say it's the black player's turn. They have the last turn in this round. This is their link right here. But instead of delivering one of these cubes, because these ones are already, have been delivered more than once. Remember, if something was delivered twice, when you deliver the third one, it's only worth 1 point. Brown has been delivered once. If you deliver it the second time, it's only worth 2 points. And if it hasn't been delivered, you get 3 points. When playing with 2 players, even though there's cubes of 2 different colors, think of them as one color when figuring out how much to score for each cube that's been delivered. Now here is their link, and neither of these will get them the big points there. So maybe what they do is they take this and they deliver it here using yellow's link. Now because black is the first time being delivered, this black player is going to get 3 points. But because they used the yellow link, yellow will get 2 points because their link was used. It's always 2 points for using someone else's link, regardless of which cube was delivered and how many have already been delivered of that color. And once everybody has delivered cubes for that round, all of the cubes that were delivered can now be placed back into the draw bag. Now that was the last phase of the round, so you'd start a new round starting with that first phase, drawing the tiles, and bidding just like we already showed you. However, at some point you're going to be trying to fill this up, and there won't be enough city tiles to fill it up for the right amount of players. In that case, you discard all the ones that were even going to be out for that round, and you then fill it up with more stock tiles to ensure that there's still 2 times the amount of tiles per player. So in this case, we're in a 4-player game. There'll still be 8 total tiles, but in this case, they'll now all be stock tiles, and this will continue for the rest of the game. Now you'll continue through these phases until each player has placed their last city tile. Once you've finished all the phases in that round, you'll do some final scoring, and how you do that is you look at the stock board, and for each of these stocks, they're each worth what the number is below it. And for each of those stocks that you have, it's worth that. So if I had 2 of these stocks, it'd be 16 more points that I would add to myself on the scoreboard. So you do that for all the stocks that are there, and whoever has the most is the winner. If it's tied, the player that owns the most of the most valuable stock is the winner. If it's still tied, whoever owns the next highest stock wins. If it's still tied, keep comparing stock values until a single winner is determined. Now that you know all the basics of the game, I'm going to teach you what these hotels and water towers do. Then I'm going to go over an optional bidding rule. Now each player is given one of these hotels, and once per game, during the deliver goods phase, you can place this hotel on any city tile that does not already have a hotel of any other player. Then whenever a cube is delivered to the spot where that hotel is, this player will get 1 point. Meaning the final destination is where this hotel is, and it doesn't matter how many cubes get delivered, it's always 1 point for each one throughout the rest of the game. Each player is also given a water tower. Once per game, during the deliver goods phase, they can place it on a city tile that doesn't already have a water tower. Then when they deliver a cube to that spot where the water tower is as the destination, they can, if they want to, deliver this cube into an adjacent city. It cannot be the one it came from, but it can continue on to one more adjacent city. Now, if it does land on and finish where the hotel is, that player's hotel will still get them 1 point. Now when doing this, the stock of both railroads that the goods went through will go up. In this case, PRR for going over here and B&O for going over here. Also, both links, if they're owned by other players, they would score 2. So in this case, the cube went here, but I'm the gray player, so that's fine, and that was the player whose turn it was. And in this case, it went here as well. The black player would get 2 points because it used their link. Now there is an optional bidding rule that is slightly more complex, but it offers more interesting bidding strategies. Now, it's like usual, you start with the player who's on last turn order, which is to the right, and going around this way in turn order, they get to bid or pass. When it's your turn, you can either bid higher or pass, just like the normal auction. However, in this one, the first player to pass goes last. So let's say this player bids 1, this player passes. They go last. This one says 2, 4, 5, pass. This one goes down here, 6, pass, just like that. This player would then pay the 6 points, and that's how that works. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into Railroad Rivals and get to the fun quicker than you normally would if you had to read the rulebook yourself. Now, if you have any further questions about the rules, I've placed a link below me in the description of this video. Now, that's the best place to ask them because not only will I be notified, but so will Forbidden Games.